Today, we interview an entrepreneur with a wealth of experience, from owning his own clubs to being influential in the growth of several major health and fitness brands. His latest venture is in the boutique space, and his company's classes have been acknowledged not just as one of Britain's best workouts by women's health magazines, but as one of the hardest workouts in the world according to the British Sunday Times newspaper. It's a company that's all about providing the ultimate individual experience using a business model that delivers. With his ethos of hard work behind the scenes and in the studio, we welcome to the Escape Your Limits podcast the CEO of TRIB, Mr. Kevin Yates.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I'm glad you found it.
It's difficult for a northerner in London.
It's difficult, yeah. And when I first met you, Kev, I have this picture of you, and you kind of had these kind of MC Hammer pants on, and I think it was a cap and this kind of crazy hair at Blackpool. I think that's where we first met.
And a bandana as well.
And a bandana, yeah. So you've come a long way since then.
Well, they were great fun days. There were myself, Kerry Annan, Dickie, Dean Hodgkins, all the guys dancing away and doing aerobics. That's where it all started. I mean, Rod Hill, who's our president for TRIB, back in the day with his spandex pants on, we still have a giggle about it now, doing his studio strength, which he designed. So it's a great founding start for the industry. So you get to know the group programming, workouts, exercise to music, just the absolute shop floor basics that people are buying.
So just for everybody, a lot of people who don't know you, just take us back. How did you get involved in this industry from sort of the young Kev?
So I think I was 22. I'd been in the army. Before that, I was playing football for Barnsley. Unsuccessful. One of the boys that gets let go, as many young footballers do.
Was that the main team? You got played for the main team, did you?
I didn't get into the first team. I played for the reserves and then went to Scunthorpe for a little while, and then obviously decided to leave, and then needed a job. I needed to earn some money. So I joined the army, and I had a real successful army career playing football for the army instead of playing for Barnsley or anyone else. But yes, it was a great fun time. And then from being in the army, I was coming out. I was doing a battalion PTI, and Fitness First had just opened up in Huddersfield. Right. So and then they'd opened another one in Rotherham. And I was just fortunate enough, I was still being paid by the army, so I went in and said, can I have a job? I'll work for free. Yeah. And a man there called Wayne Buffy gave me a job because he didn't have to pay me. And I worked for 3 months, and luckily then decided to give me a job, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's how I started at Fitness First, right? I think we were the 7th club back in the day.
Right, okay. Yeah. And what was, they were extremely successful. I think Fitness First Huddersfield was the... Was actually the club, and Wayne Buffy was someone who actually gave me my break into starting Escape. Actually, I delivered a set of dumbbells in the back of the car on a Friday evening there, so it's so I know very much about it. But what do you think? What was the industry like then when you started, and what do you think kind of made that business as special as it was at the time?
Well, I mean, I was only a young man, and going into Huddersfield Fitness First was something unique because there was no other gyms like it. Mike Balfour, the founder of Fitness First, created something exceptional. It was affordable fitness to everybody, which was fantastic. And even for us as young, kids wanting to get into the fitness world, now there was a real opportunity to become a gym instructor or personal trainer, or you could, teach. Classes were huge in the clubs back then. And so the opportunities were amazing, and we had, and because it was so new and the growth, you got to know everybody. So Sean Phillips, who was the group operations director at the time, you'd know them by name, he would know you. And so from the growth of Fitness First, you were always recognised, so you were part of that growth option. So people then, like Tim Keatley, who went on to do some great things in the industry, and Kerry Hannon and Richard Callender and people like this, we were all there at the beginning, so we had the opportunities as well that come with that, with growth.
Right, okay. And what do you think are some of the big takeaways that you got from that experience? How long were you there at Fitness First?
I was there 11 years.
Right.
11 years, yeah. I think, you know, I was very fortunate, got all the way through to National Fitness Manager, looking after, you know, we had 174 clubs in the UK at the time. So it was a great experience about leadership, it's about people, it's about, you know, understanding, you know, individuals, understanding about growth, opportunity with watching. We went through sale, MBOs, stock market flotations. It was just a fantastic time. And you know, I was 25, 26 years old. I got you know, shares in Fitness First. You know, I was reading the Financial Times. I mean, it was a crazy time for a young man from where my humble background. So and we were all the same. You know, it was everybody was you all felt part of it. You all had a piece of that, and it was an exceptional time and an exceptional growth, and we all really felt part of that.
Yeah. And Group X was a big thing in them days. You know, what do you think made that product so? Because you was quite involved in that, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, Kerry Hannon was National Group X manager at the time. We then developed two different strategies. One was to develop the whole personal training strategy, and one was a Group X strategy. So it was all about programming, going away from individual instructors at the time to bring on everybody as a personal trainer, or you'd be self-employed Group X. We were the first people in the industry to change all that. We started to remodel how the whole operation model would work, and we spent about 2 years doing this. But myself and Tim Keatley had spent a lot of time prior to that doing the training academy at Chesterfield, where we trained probably thousands of teams how to do personal training, interaction, service, and how to teach group exercise. So we had a lot of homegrown talent ready to come through the ranks. But group programming was a huge part of our growth and our growth strategy. We designed all our own programs. We partnered clearly with Les Mills on some stuff, but we maintained roughly about 70% of our studio board was designed programs in-house, right, which was an exceptional fun time as well.
Right. And do you think that sort of, because Group X is obviously, I know, important to you as well, do you think that's something that is carried on in the industry today, or do you think that's gone a little bit?
The industry has gone through some loops and cycles, like everything, you know, where we've gone into this whole low-cost market, which is, you know, it was purely low cost, and now they're starting to look at putting more benefits back in. They've started to add classes, they've started to add other services, and some of the low-cost operators have done extremely well. And they've remolded the market. It was a perfect timing just as we came through the recession, and it was a great opportunity for them. And you know, we had a period before the recession where the whole programming system had been forgot about. It's pure sales. It was sale, and the whole industry had lost track of what they should be doing, and forgot about the people, forgot about what people were joining for, and forgot about the actual workout and the ethics. And then it was personal trainers. Could we get 30 personal trainers in a club? Don't really care. We'll buy a load of program external. We'll have no integrity in our programming. And the customers didn't want that in the end. You know, it was they did it with their feet. They did it with their payments. They joined low-cost operators, and thought, well, why would I pay £35 to £55 a month when I can pay £10, £12, £15 a month in a low cost, and still get the exact same service and programming that I would have got if I'm paying more. So there was a whole shift in how the model works, and we've seen that in all different things, whether that's retail or whether that's pubs and restaurants, which have had to change their models based on the smoking bans. And so everybody, you know, you can't just open a gym and leave it and think that's going to be successful, because it's not. Programming is where it's at, and you can see that now. You know, Virgin have done a lot of great things right now in terms of how they're remodeling their programs, and so are David Lloyd, you know, doing some good stuff with Blaze right now, and other programs they're putting into their clubs. So there are a lot of operators starting to spend money on programming, which is absolutely the right thing to do.
Right. Okay. Do you think it became a bit commoditized then?
It's purely commoditized. I mean, it's a fight. It's a numbers game. It's a low price, so it becomes a commoditized market. Right. And this is where the boutique have changed everything. They've got everybody now thinking, well, wait a minute, people will pay for quality, as the burger restaurant system works. You know, whether you want to pay for a Byron burger or whether you want to pay for a McDonald's, you pay, it's either convenience or you're going to sit down and have a really cool burger. So I think, you know, if you take the consumers and what they're asking for, you've only got to see the boom of the boutiques, and they're asking for programs, they're asking for quality. Yeah. And I think, you know, as we start to evolve this now, and the UK is still very early down the line. I still think the US is still early down the line. I was there only last week. I don't think there's a lot of clubs out there that you've got Orange Theory clearly, and you've got lots in New York, but they're individual or they've got 2 or 3. There's a huge market over there, and a new market to be reset as well, not just staying where it is. Because if the boutique market in the US is 10 years now, then or even a little bit longer, the UK market is roughly about 4 years in the running. We've got a long way to go, and there's a lot of model changes to be done over the next few years as well. Yeah.
Do you think that will change the type of people that you get in the industry? Because you know, if you was a group exercise instructor, certainly in those early days, it was a very, you know, you did it because you was passionate about it. You didn't do it because of the money, and I guess being able to attract good people was quite difficult. Do you think the boutiques will change that, because, you know, they'll be able to get paid as based on how good they are?
Well, look, you know, I think it's the nail on the head. You know, a boutique is about a show. It's about theatre. You know, if you want to put on a great stage, you have to have your best performer. You know, there's no point having, you know, somebody who you would normally see in a leisure centre or and I'm not saying leisure centres are bad, by the way, because I've run leisure centres for 7 years as well. But you know, what you're looking for is these rock stars, and they're not necessarily from our gym world. You know, they've come from different worlds now. You know, we had some amazing ones we have some amazing ones in Tribe. We had some amazing ones in previous business I worked in One Rebel, and there's some amazing ones in the boutique market in central London that you see right now. The difference what you're going to get is the growth of expansion. So if you're opening 5 or 10 in London each month or every quarter, there's not enough people to go around right now. So there's going to be a fight for the best players. Yeah. And I used to talk to my guys that we like a football team. You want to be the Real Madrid or whoever you support, or Barcelona, and you want your Messis and you want your Ronaldos. You've got to find the same in this industry. You've got to find them. And they're very few and far between. There's only a few in real top A players in central London. So you know, you're either going to have to pay for them or find some absolute reward system to keep them. Yeah, yeah.
And what with the instructors then, what do you think is important? We've had on previous people on the podcast talk about this subject, but what do you think in terms of having someone that's just a great presenter and can work with a crowd, or someone that's technically correct, or because I guess they're two very, as you know, very, very different skills. You don't very rarely get someone that's great at presenting to a crowd and communicating, and also understands how to create a good program. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's finding that balance on your timetable, and I think if you're a boutique operator like ours, you want them both to be A players, but in different categories. So, you know, if I've got an A player that stands on stage and is a great theatre performer and loves to perform, and maybe is not as technically minded as this guy or girl over here, and that's fine, as you know, because customers will come for different guests. Will arrive, and I'd rather be performed at, or I'd rather be critiqued, or it might be the program that needs critiquing with that person more. So I think that you need that balance. But personally, I love the theatre. You know, I love the theatre people. I think that if you've got that kind of individual, they bring the crowds in. It's been shown it doesn't matter whether that's the crowds in places like Blackpool, where you said we met at IFS, or whether it's going back to the local leisure centre and the person taking the workout. If they're doing a great theatre class, you know, they'll be full. We've got to we're getting back to them days. You know, I remember back in the days when, you know, we could have a leisure centre, you'd have 300 people turn up for a class, you know, and suddenly now there was 10 and 15 turning up, or if that. But these sessions are coming back now, you know, where you're getting big crowds of people, because this whole movement to group programming is happening.
Right. So tell us about you. So you did work at a leisure centre, Leisure Connections, I believe. Tell us a little bit about that, and again what you took from that.
Yeah, it was an interesting business, because I'd gone from Fitness First to Esporta at the time, which was then a high-end business, and similar to David Lloyd. And you know, when I remember when I got the job with Mark Botha hired me, and we had such a great time. And I remember he said, "What's the difference?" And I just said, "I've gone from a beautiful cappuccino to mellow birds." And I just like, because in the cafeterias that's what we were serving, and so you know. But we spent 7 years there. We had such a great time, and probably one of the best boards that I'd worked with in terms of fun, their engagement, you know, our CEO at the time, which was Richard Millman, who ended up at Total Fitness, and he's now moved on as well, was an exceptional leader. He came from Coke, and he got a whole different, you know, vision and strategy, especially when we start talking about marketing and how we run businesses. But leisure authority businesses are really rewarding. They're an amazing, fun time. And Leisure Connection for me was an exceptional time where, you know, we got museums, we got theatres, we got golf courses, we got national swimming centres, we got international tennis centres like Bisham Abbey, and we got football centres like Lillishore, you know, for football academy where England train. You know, great areas and icon facilities that we were operating, but it was a real cost centre. You had to cost manage. You had to really make sure that you thought differently about how you spend capital, because it's not yours. You know, it's taxpayers' money. You know, we're being paid to be there and paid to operate it on behalf of local authorities. So a lot of thought had to go in of how we made sure we provided services for the community, which was a brilliant time for us. You know, we had the wheelchair basketball at Stoke Mandeville Stadium, so we worked for that as well, and it was an exciting time because we were there for the Olympics. So we definitely got some free swimming tickets.
And on from there then, what was the sort of move or the decision to kind of come into this boutique sector? What was, you know, when did you identify that was something that was coming up, and how did you go about that?
Well, it was an accident-ish. I got a telephone call from Giles Dean, who's one of the founders of One Rebel, and said they'd got an idea, you know, can we meet up? And that was for the Friday. I was driving home and met him on the Saturday, and then I went to see James on one of the other founders, James Balfour, and by Monday we'd done a deal that I'd join them and start to develop the One Rebel business. So I did that for it was 3 years through the run-up, and then we opened the 2 sites, and then I went on to myself to do Tribe, which we're doing right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And what made you sort of think that, you know, doing boutique, which I guess was probably fairly new when you started, and particularly in the north of England. One Rebel had obviously just starting in London area, and there was a few others, but it was still quite new to London. What kind of gave you the confidence to open in a fairly sort of, I guess, kind of remote area compared to a large city?
Compared to London.
Yeah, it was a bit of a risk. Why did you know that was going to work?
I think, you know, look, you know, the whole One Rebel experience was amazing. You know, James is an innovator. You know, his concepts and his ideas and his thought process is unique, and right down to the detail of everything. And I took a lot from that. One of the things when you then go into the north is that it's basically there's a divide, and then there's this whole thing going off power of the north, you know, powerhouse of the north, and you're trying to think, well, what can we take from London, or what ideas can we take, and what things can we do that the community would want. So, you know, but one thing that we could roll. And I believe that, you know, there's a lot of people travel to work to London to work here and go back to Sheffield. They do that for Leeds. You know, it's a straight direct route. Right. It's only 2 hours and 10 minutes. And so, you know, there's no reason why things here in the capital won't work outside. You've just got to get the pricing model right. You've got to get the fit out right, and you've got to get the people right. And if you can build a model that fits the demographic that you've got, then of course it'll work. It'll work in Sheffield. It'll work in Leeds, Manchester's, and all areas.
Right.
But you have to get the product and everything absolutely spot on, because otherwise you're going to be in a world where everybody's just comparing you to everything in London, where it's not, you can't set yourself apart. So you don't want to be the ones where you're saying, oh, well, yeah, but you've taken all this and this is what you've now got into Leeds or Sheffield, and then wishing they'd still got this. You have to still build it as and that it's better than what you can get anywhere else. Yeah. And we truly believe that's what we've done.
And I guess there are differences, you know, even in London, speaking to a lot of other operators, you know, even if you're the opposite side of the street, in some cases that's enough of a distance for people not to travel, depending on where they're based. So what are some of the other differences from building, I guess, a brand in central London to you know, outside of?
I mean, it's density, and is one, and clearly the population is nowhere near as large. You know, you take somewhere like Sheffield, you know, 600,000, but the density is you know, it's spread. You take Leeds, you know, it's 1.2 to 1.5 million depending on the spread, but the local area where you're going to be might be 150,000. So it's not as, you know, you haven't got the height of the buildings, so you're not 10, 12 stories high or even more. You know, you're probably 3 stories high or 4 stories. And so these are things you've got to take into account when you're designing and building something in the north. And then it's a whole cost exercise. It's a cost control, making sure that you're building the clubs for the right amount, and that you can operate them for the right amount so that they're successful. But I think one of the things that we've been able to do with doing this model and prove that it works in the north is been able to scale it. And so we've been able to open in Moscow right now, which we've done. And so that's in central Moscow with Alexei. We've now opening on the 7th in Aribau in Barcelona, and we're opening very shortly in Madrid. We've got people out in China in May, because we've got a deal we're doing with China right now. The US is coming on board for Florida, and we've done a great deal with our partner Sami in Finland, where we've got an 18-club deal for Finland. So we know that the model works, and our strategy is now for international expansion.
Right. So when you started, tell us a little bit about the model, what you did and why you did it. In the way that you decided to do it.
Sure. I mean, like the boutique market, you know, you can either go in. There's only a few things out there really with a few tweaks. So one is you've got cycle. Now, I didn't want to get into cycling because I know how hard that is. I'm not a really keen cycler myself anyway, and I know how hard it is to create the program around cycling, you know, and maintain it, keep it fresh, you know, and keep that going. It's a hard thing to keep going. When you looked at Barry's, One Rebel, and other boot camp type facilities, they make absolute sense, you know, because they can be progressed. And one of the things that's happening right now is there's a lot of boutiques coming out, and they're putting everything in. And no disrespect to Escape, but it's a great opportunity for you guys. You get lots of your equipment in, and people like Matt try and make sure that you streamline. But I do see that you end up with people who've got TRXs in, they've got bags in, they've got this in. There's no progression. And it's exactly like when you're back in the day, you have a circuit, and you have a circuit of like 10 exercises, and then you make it 20, and then you do a lot. Where do you go? Where does it finish? And the reason that some will be successful is because they've got that progression. They'll be able to move on in a year's time with something.
And when you say progression, what
just small tweaks. It doesn't have to be even equipment. Right. It can be the way the music's played. It can be the way the content's done in terms of delivered, in terms of its numbers. But it also, you know, we decided to create a whole space. We went treadmill resistance intensity and have a full intensity space with nothing in. Right. You know, so we can always play with that space however we wish, without having to buy multiple things in at a point. But also it makes it affordable and cost efficient for any franchisee that's wanting to purchase as well, because the cost to fit out keeps it low, but also the progression of that. So I think that the good boutiques will have something there where they're going to be able to progress, and that's what we wanted to be able to do, is have a program that can move with the time. In 10 years, what can we do with it? How do we progress through all different, we say sight, sound and smell. So what are the 3 things that we can work on constantly in that studio?
And when you say progress as well, do you mean from a sort of a client's perspective, where their workout itself is progressing and evolving? Is that what you mean, or just the general look and feel of the
No, I
concept?
think it's both. I think you're absolutely right. You know, I think you've got to maintain the standards and the brand standards within the facility, and also keep fitting them out, so you don't just leave them. You've got to keep updating the clubs. You know, you are a retail store, you are not a gym, and that's what people have got to get their heads around if they get into this. You're not dealing with gyms anymore. Right. You don't want a receptionist who's worked at, you know, say in the fitness industry for the last 20 years. You want somebody who's worked in Zara or worked in Hollister or wherever, you know, in good retail stores that can act like a retailer. This is what we're looking for. In terms of your programming, in terms of how we develop that, we constantly are working on the music, in terms of how we deliver that, in terms of the events that we put together, how we synergize our links to brands, whether that's Sweaty Betty, whether that's Lululemon, or whoever it is, and finding the right circle that you work with. So we spend a lot of time on that and effort to make sure that we've got brand integrity.
Yeah, and so you're licensing the brand, is that right now? Franchising.
Franchising, yeah. So it's a franchise as well. So masters are available,
right.
And clearly in certain countries. We're working right now on Germany.
Yeah.
We're doing China right now. Spain's done. We're working on Portugal at the moment, and and Finland. So Russia's done. So yeah, we're working on that pretty quickly, and we should have a really good list of clubs ready for the end of 2018. So 2019 and 20 is really our crunch years, where we start to see the traction of opening the clubs.
Yeah. So I follow you a lot, obviously, on social media and see what you do in your local area, which, being involved in fitness yourself and being passionate, I guess it's relatively straightforward to do that in an area you can get to. How do you think you'll scale that concept in different countries with different, you know, like France and Russia are very different to the UK as an example. How do you go about sort of, will you change it to each market, or will you keep a consistent model and make the market fit?
It's a really good. I mean, these are things that we are learning as well, and our partners that we're partnering with know their markets, so they're experts within their markets. So where we've partnered with Alexei and I go in Russia, you know, these guys, you know, he's ex-world class. He's also he was CEO for Johnson & Johnson. You know, they're intelligent business people, but also understand the market as well. So we've made slight tweaks to the workout or to the music or the program to fit that market that we operate. You know, when we're working with partners like MyZone as well through technology, we're working better with this. We have a new awards and point system that's coming out as well, which we've been able to work with now. We're in different markets, so we can start to reward our guests even better. And you know, but you know, Spain will be the same. You know, I think the only difference with Spain, you know, will be they like to work out later than we do. It seems so. Our classes will run a lot later and less earlier. In the UK, we seem to want to get in there first thing in the morning, which is perfect. But I think you know, look, you know, if you look at the workout, it's running, it's resistance, and it's some plyometric movements and some body-based movements. So these are fundamentally simple things that anyone can do when they turn up. And what we've tried to do is make our workout very, very intuitive, very simple, very easy to follow. And so no matter where we take this, it's not going to be complicated. So whether we take this into Spain, or whether we're in Russia or Finland, or we're in Germany, the workout is very explanatory. It's very easy. And so I don't mean easy as the workout. I mean easy to follow. Yeah. So and that's the key to this, is that anyone could come and do this.
Right. And what was your decision to franchise then? Why didn't you just say, well, I'm in the UK, it's my own market, there's still a huge opportunity here, I guess.
Yeah, huge.
Why did you sort of decide to
go out there?
Go out there and make life difficult?
I think that's the one. You're absolutely right, make life difficult. The number one reason was it's speed, and franchising does give you speed, and you only have to look at all the reports that are out now, coming out right now in terms of franchise world, how many people are buying onto franchises and latching on. There's a real opportunity here with any franchise business, whether you're franchising gyms or boutiques or anything. I think there's a whole market for this right now. But what we've been able to do is when we find the right partners, you know, right masters, it doesn't feel like you're just franchising and letting you've got to maintain brand consistency, and you become a marketing agency and a support agency. That's really what you become. So we are now a training and marketing support business. But you still, you know, it's just so exciting that we think now over the next 10 years, the amount of countries that we can get this business in. And because of it's a low cost to set up and operate, we know that scalability will be very quickly as well.
Right. So what makes you different? There are others out there that are in this space. What makes you guys different, or why would they choose Tribe as opposed to one of the other ones that are out?
That are franchising right now.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's some great franchise businesses, and you know, whether that's Orange Theory, which have done extremely well. And you know, when we brought on and we got together with Rod Hurley was the Director General for Spain, Iberia for Anytime Fitness. He joined us, you know, and he come from a whole franchising background. So we got to learn quite a lot in terms of understanding, you know, some real good knowledge on franchising with Rod as well. So we've worked really hard with him to pull all our stuff together. We have an amazing team. We have a stunning team of people, from our CFO, which is Joaquim, you know, who's been a CEO for a telecommunications business. You know, Rod, myself, we've got David Cross, we've got Dan, and you know, so that's our main structure of the board. But you know, with that, we've all got different experiences in different things. You know, from operations and fitness, and Dan's from sales, from Rod from franchising, Joaquin from finance, from Dave, who's a property and is an architect. So suddenly you've got this rounded opportunity. We can design, build, and set you a club up in no time.
Right. And what do you get when you buy into the franchise? I know I've spoke to some of them, and you'll get the brand and you get a structure for programming, and then doing the music and the choreography. It's down to you to do it. Yeah. What do you get with Tribe specifically in terms of that if you buy into a franchise?
So once you buy in, you're buying into the family, so you become part of the network. We have a whole online platform and a portal which has got everything in, all your basic stuff like contracts and all your properties. But we'll design, build, pull it all together for you and set you a club up. To the point the ice will be in the ice machine when you turn up. It'll be ready to go, and it'll be ready to operate. Of course, it's the music, it's the ongoing content, it's the updates, it's the events that we pull together. So every month you get 2 full updates of content, but you know, the training, the support, the marketing is daily. Everything is daily. So it's a full support network we've got ready. We've got to support the countries that we're now operating in.
Right. And what's your ambition for the brand? Where would you like to see it go?
So on our business plan, we've got 1,000 clubs in 36 countries. That's basically what we've planned. And
what period of time is that?
So that takes us to 2026.
Right. Okay.
But that'll depend on how fast China moves and America.
Yeah.
But we've got to have some audacious goals. I think we've definitely got them.
Absolutely. And there are people, I guess, with those kind of numbers already.
Well, Orange Theory have done it. You know, these guys, I mean, I know that's mostly in the US, but I mean, they've got 103 in Florida alone. So there's definitely opportunities there. Right. So let's throw some audacious goals, and if we'll get there.
Yeah. And what do you think, I guess, you know, sort of within that business plan period, what do you think are some of the changes that are likely to happen to the market? You know, at the moment we're seeing kind of still low cost, quite strong, and mid-market, as you call them, you know, in a lot of cases getting squeezed, and now there's the introduction of these boutiques. Where do you think the future holds?
Yeah, and look, you know, I'd love a crystal ball. The way I see it right now, that you've got this whole movement of low cost is going to carry on. I mean, it's going to carry on, but they'll get better with service, and they'll put more things in and more value for money. And they're doing that now. They're doing it across the board. You've then got this whole rise of the boutiques that you'll end up with 2-3 studio concepts, and then someone's going to open a club very shortly probably and have 10 studios within his own gym or something like this, and he'll call it a boutique club. you'll end up with, big operators put in what they perceive as a boutique studio inside a boutique, but don't really understand what boutique's about. And it's not about just putting a class club in a club and calling it boutique. So there's a lot of differences, but at the end of the day, one of the best things I saw is in the States is where you walk down the street and you've got a Soul Cycle, a Barry's, you've got a Flywheel, you've got a cycle bar, you've got all on one street, you've got a yoga studio, and they're all offering amazing service, great content, and people. And so, I think what's going to happen, we're going to end up with this. We're going to end up with something like this, where in the high street you'll have 4 different types of boutique studios, which will probably have the best coaches and the best people working in them as well.
And I've seen, even just to stop you there, in New York, I've heard, certainly in Manhattan, that these studios actually work together.
Yeah.
So competing studios actually sort of share. So if you want to do your yoga and your HIIT, they're kind of referring.
Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we do the same in Sheffield. If you want to do a yoga studio, you go to Rise. That's where we'd send you in Sheffield. If you want to do it the same in Leeds, we have a yoga studio just behind us. We'll send you to the yoga studio. It's a partnership. That if they want to do a HIIT class, they'll come to us. And we're specifically the best at what we do, and that's why we've got 3 key things. We're the best at our workout, we're the best at the shakes that we offer and our retail offering. And these are the key 3 fundamental things that we offer within the club. We're not going to put a yoga session mid-class, we're not going to bring spin bikes in, we're not going to put boxing bags in. We're doing what we do, and we're going to be the best at it, and we're going to focus on that, and we're going to get better and better and better as we keep going, and we'll be more slicker, and we'll create more things around it that are seamless, that integrate and interlink with our actual program and our workouts that we're developing right now.
Right. Do you think there's the money's there long term? So from a financial perspective, obviously, if you go to a traditional gym, you can do your Group X class, your yoga one day, and you can do your HIIT and spin and everything. Boutiques are obviously just limited to one thing. Do you think that's a sort of something that people continue to come back to?
I think, where did you get your coffee today? Where do you get your sandwiches today? The fitness and health and leisure is becoming something like I need it. And you've got this generation, these millennial generations who want to keep coming. We've got our generation that are still working out and still training hard. And we've still got my daughter's generations, 18 now coming through, 16 to 18s now coming through. This is only going to get better. The UK is going to get better. Globally is going to get better. There's this whole rise of leisure, health, well-being, understanding that's so much better than it was in the first 20 years of when we were opening gyms, and people are just getting used to all this. Should I exercise? Smoking's reducing. People are thinking more about their health. People are drinking better than they were. Health and leisure is associated with looking good. So you see that now through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter's, mediums. It's creating this, and it creates this whole, I need to be part of that. I want to go there. Unlike the old nightclubs that we had to go to with the sticky floors and everything, this is their nightclub now. This is the place where they want to go, be seen with the green smoothies, have a shake, and go out with their friends on an evening and do whatever they've got to do. But it's a proper retail space destination.
Yeah, and with when you're going into these new markets, I understand in the US where there's probably a lot of trainers and they've been around and they've been educated, so it's easy to hire people. How do you think going into new markets like Russia, as an example, where there probably isn't that amount of people, how do you think they're going to get that caliber of trainer to open the amount of locations that you probably need to?
This is hard, Let's not. We are setting ourselves up a training centre in Barcelona for to train our teams and train our people, and Rod will be instrumental with that as well. But it's a hard thing to get. We're flying over to Russia at the end of April. We've got 2 weeks there. We're doing more training with the guys, more training with the trainers to get them, keep them on song and raise the level and raise the bar. But yeah, even in Moscow, there's a lot of new people to this. This is new, it's a new type of exercise. Same with Spain. There is no boutiques. There's one, actually, the one that just opened up. But this is all new to the customers, and all new to the consumers. And it will be the same in Finland. It will be the same when we start. There's a few that's opened up now in Germany, but this is all fresh. This is new, and this is good. You know, maybe you could argue, do you want first mover advantage, or do you want to wait and let them build the momentum? But we said no. Let's get in there. Let's get there while the property deals are there, and let's get the best properties that we can possibly find. And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to be in. We've got to be in quickly.
Yeah. So just before we finish, then, Kev, a couple of quick questions then. So what would you say is the biggest threat facing your business, and why?
Biggest threat?
Yeah.
The biggest threat is, good question. I think I would just say, you know, making sure that we've got the right people, you know, to teach, you know, because we need great coaches no matter where we are. So we've got to get the best coaches that want to work out and want to do this kind of workout. Yeah.
How does your business utilize new technology from a sales and marketing perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we use a platform. We don't design or build our own platforms. That's just expensive. I've been there where people have done that, and it's cost a lot of money. So we do use an external company that's constantly developing and developing the platform, and we're really happy with where they're taking it. But we're working very hard. We use Mind and Body, but we're working very hard to be able to use Mind and Body and seamlessly link with other technologies to be able to understand more data and consumer workouts and get more data, not only when they're with us as a boutique, but where they are outside that boutique studio as well. Yeah.
What's your process for making important business decisions?
Depends who you ask. And so we have a board. You know, we speak about everything daily. We update board reports as you always do. But I mean, fundamentally, if it's operational, then you know I'd make the call probably. But if it's property, David would. If it's sales, Dan would. We're a small team really at the moment. So you know, being an entrepreneur yourself and a family business, it can get you know, everybody's got a pull and everybody's got a view. So. Yeah, probably sometimes he who shouts loudest wins.
Good answer. How do you keep up to date with industry and consumer trends?
I mean, trade shows, and I've just come back from Ursa. You know, FIBO's coming up very shortly. I read every trade magazine that probably is, and you know, a lot of friends in the industry, you know, are in good positions. So, you know, there's nothing like a beer down someone's and they tell you a few good truths what's happening and stuff. So yeah, definitely industry. You know, I've been here a long time, so yeah, know a lot of connections.
People. What's your morning routine to set you up for a general business day?
So my morning routine. I get up, today it's been very early because I've got to get the train, come down to London, but usually I get up, I meet Dan, who's our sales, and he does all our marketing and sales for the group. We spend probably 1 hour going through everything where we are today on all the clubs, where we are globally, where we are on all our new operation systems that we're doing. And then I usually phone all the managers first thing, have a little catch up where we are on the numbers, so I get their perspective, and then usually conference calls for most of the day with Spain and Joaquim and Rod and Dave and everybody else really for the full day, just setting up international. Like today, I'm from here. I'll be flying straight out to Madrid to sort out some stuff over there.
Right. So what's your biggest career either failure or disappointment, and how did you overcome it?
I don't want to say disappointment. I would say that, you know, when I would love to have worked more abroad, took my family early doors, gone and worked more in international waters, and I think that's why I've got a thirst for franchising internationally. I would have loved to have done that. I nearly went to work with Giles and James at Jatomi in Turkey at one point.
Right.
You know, but these are decisions I had to make. You know, and I'd got my family at home, so. I probably wish I would have done more international living and running health clubs early doors.
Yeah.
And not waited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a good thing about that as well. Maybe there's the right time to do these things.
There's always a right time. Well, you've only just gone yourself, haven't you? So it's about timing.
Never too late. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. It probably came from Mike Metcalf, who came into Fitness First. And it was always, he was talked about understand everybody's requirements in the business. And what he did, I'll never forget, we went to Burton Fitness First back in the day. And the first person he went up to was the cleaner to go and speak to him and spend some time with him before he actually even went in and spoke to the manager. And he was just saying to me, this is, you have to understand everybody's purpose, everybody's role, and how successful that role is, and spend time with them. And that definitely stuck with me. And I was with him only a few weeks ago, and I was telling him just about that time. Yeah. And he can't remember it, but I can.
Yeah, great. That's great advice, that is. And then final question, Kev. So escape your limits is about overcoming what you've been told to believe is impossible and then making it possible. So what would be your most memorable example of escaping your own personal limits?
I probably, if anybody's ever seen me do the marathon, the London Marathon, I did the London Marathon and I died at 24 miles, I think it was. So it's on YouTube, and it was the hardest thing I ever did. And I was on for a 4-hour marathon. I was doing great, and it probably took me another hour and a half to 2 mile. So I think for me that was definitely escaping my limits. And I'm not a distance runner. I'm definitely a sprinter, and I'm not even a good sprinter at that. So, but that was a real hard one. But I did it, and I got through the London Marathon. It was a great time.
Fantastic.
And it's a great laugh, so if anybody ever wants to watch it, it's actually quite funny.
So Kev, you got an inspiring story. I wish you all the success in the growth of Tribe, and thank you very much for your interview today.
Thanks for seeing me.
Thanks. Cheers. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.